Welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. Away from banking, well, the NDC says it is and has been concerned about the deterioration of the party's ideals among its members. They want to ensure that anybody who prides himself in the party's membership understands at least the fundamental principles and philosophy of the party. The Institute of Social Democracy is perhaps already in session. We'll confirm that with the man in charge. Dr. William Ahaji is rector of the Institute, and he is my special guest today. Sir, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Before I ask you my questions about the NDC, what's your take about what's happening within the banking industry? I'm sure you're a banker yourself.
Well, I'm not a banker, but I understand a little bit of
you deposit in a bank, I wanted to say.
Yes,
right.
yes. But it's bound to happen because there are too many small banks around and they're having difficulty in mobilizing deposits, primarily because the bankable population in Ghana is too small. The banking culture in Ghana is too small. It's still a bit young, and therefore reaching the capital requirement that the Bank of Ghana has been asking for has been one of the biggest challenges many of the banks have had. So the operating at that level is not efficient, and I guess the Bank of Ghana took that into consideration and decided that given the kind of liquidity challenges that they're having, it would be best for them to be absorbed by a more efficient and bigger bank.
But a lot of people have described this as some kind of a banking coup d'etat, the way it was taken over. What do you say?
From what the governor said, I think that they've given them sufficient notice and given them sufficient time to correct the kinds of challenges that they were facing. So I guess that must be in the works for a while, but the people think that they've been sprung on depositors, and I heard people saying that they're going to draw down all their deposits in the bank. That's also very risky for the banking environment, where people panic withdrawals can create all crises within other banks, not particularly these ones that have already gotten the heat.
Right. Well, we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, the Bank of Ghana is able to handle this and handle it really well, so that, like they said, customers will not be at risk, and it will be so. All right, let's get to the business of politics.
Yes.
We hear Institute of Higher Learning, we hear rector, which gives us, the indication, all of the indications that we need to know that this is an institute, it's a tertiary institute of sort. But then this morning we saw messages about recruitment ongoing, etc., and we see one of the things that you need to enter is just be able to read and write English. What kind of school is this?
Yes, thank you very much. If you had the General Secretary and indeed the Chairman of the Interim Governing Council, he said it's a capacity building institution. Many parties around the world actually establish institutions to bring their members to speed on exactly what their party's identity is and what the party's philosophy is. So it is just one of those institutions. But let me also add that such institutions typically grow into institutions of higher learning because they do run programs that enable people to do policy analysis. It empowers people to be able to manage the state institutions when their parties are in power. So they become institutions of choice for members of that particular tradition, not necessarily of the political party.
If you say that, then I'll refer you back to one of the things that Professor Joshua Alabi, who was at the launch, said. He said that this is for people who believe in progressive politics, for everyone, he says, who believe in progressive politics. This, from what you said, there's a stark contradiction.
No, there isn't. There isn't at all. I mean, we also said that it was for all Ghanaians who believe, and the progressives are usually those on the left. We call ourselves progressives because we believe that our approach to delivering development is grounded in very, very sound values and principles. Principles of justice, principles of equality, principles of freedom, rights, and participation. Those are universal rights that drive every development effort. If you don't develop along those lines, then you are going to be copying other people, and perhaps the rate of progress becomes slower. So progressives around the world are those who believe in those values and principles as well.
But it sounds from what you just said that this is for NDC people only, and of course, even for my intro.
CPP is there. We have PNP, PC, all those other parties are there. But this institution is not limited to Ghana only. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
We've had requests from people who espouse the same ideology across the African continent, indeed from our sub-region as well. So if you believe in social democracy and indeed other aspects, we are not only going to transfer skill and knowledge, we are transferring skills as well. Skills about managing businesses, and if we get into what exactly we're going to be doing in the institute, I'll give you an indication of the things that we are going to be doing there, which equips people with knowledge and skills for them to perform as normal human beings in the society.
Interesting. Are you accredited? Is the institute accredited, and by who?
You see, the concept of institute has been overhyped. You have vocational training institutes. Are they going to be accredited by the National Accreditation Board that's looking at tertiary institutions? What we did last Thursday was to inaugurate, in addition, 4 committees: an academic affairs committee, an administration committee, a finance committee, and an estate committee. Now, these committees are going to work to produce the relevant reports that will enable us fully establish an institution. Now, the launch of the institution is not the opening of the institution for normal academic
studies to start, so to speak.
Exactly. We're bringing people's attention to the fact that there's a school that is coming that is going to build capacity, that's going to create opportunity for continuing learning, that's going to actually inculcate in the people certain values that we espouse as a political party.
Well, so how do you then respond to the messages that have been, going all over social media, on Facebook and WhatsApp, that's asking people to apply?
No, what we're doing, indeed, the program that's coming up, we've been doing these one-day workshops for the last 1.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is just one of them. But this has happened because we've now gone public, and the demand for being part of that process has grown. And so, yes, this is quite a movement with regards to people wanting to come and understand exactly what we are saying or what we mean by social democracy and all the other aspects of it. So, yes, there's quite a very strong demand for it. But it is not because we are trying to avoid accreditation or we are trying to introduce things that are contradictory to what we are doing. They are just in the normal run of things.
Because from what you said, it sounds to me like it's a purely academic institute. You're going to put together an institute that's purely academic, that's also into research. And so obviously you're going to have to need some form of accreditation.
If we had time to talk about concept note, we said we're going to look at the number of programs, and we use different vehicles for delivering the programs. Okay. We are going to do workshops. We are even going to do town hall meetings to be able to share information with our constituents. We are going to do workshops. We are going to do conferences, but we're also going to do on-campus training programs. And then, of course, we're going to do web-based online training programs as well. So it's not a brick-and-mortar kind of arrangement initially. We are going to build, the estate committee, for instance, is going to look at our land, advise on the kinds of structures that we are going to put there. So yes, we'll have a campus with residential facilities for those who will be coming from outside. But you see, the programs are not purely academic programs. They are capacity building programs. But when we mature, we hope that we'll give people additional opportunities to acquire further knowledge. And let me very, very economical in the way I put it. We are not saying we are awarding degrees, but there are party schools that are universities. They are. Because
I was going to ask you, what is it you'll be awarding after the, I've been to workshops where after the workshop they provided certificates.
Of participation.
They won't say it's a degree or anything, they just give you a certificate. So is that something that you're going to do, and what weight will that certificate carry?
You see, essentially, if you went through the training program, and some of the courses are core courses or core programs, you need to know what social democracy means. As a member of the party or as somebody who believes in social democracy. Now, it's very useful because then you are you are basically associating yourself with the identity of the particular political party you're dealing with.
Okay.
Which means that all appointees will be basically singing from the same sheet. Otherwise, what you find is that some think we are a socialist party, some think we are a social democratic party.
What are you?
We are a social democratic party. Socialism is a totally different kind of thing, but it's not dissimilar to social democracy.
So you have elements of
socialism. It depends on how far left you are,
okay,
and how close you are to the center. Social democracy is more of a center-left party.
Okay.
Socialism is a little further to the left. So there are some strings running through both of them,
okay,
but at least we are now a social democratic party,
Please go ahead.
Which is basically welfare socialism,
okay,
well, as they say, welfare capitalism. Sorry.
Okay. You speak of appointees. Is it going to be mandatory for every appointee, should your party win the next elections and the president, appoints people? Will it be mandatory for all of them to go through this institute?
It would be preferable. We would work with the thought that it should be attractive for them to acquire an understanding of who the party is. But in time, perhaps in time, we'll request that to hold office in the party, you need to go through this kind of training. And we're also saying that, for instance, if you're aspiring to become a member of parliament, we'll take you through, if you're an aspirant, we'll take you through parliamentary procedures, we'll take you through, and then we'll get, indeed, former parliamentarians to come and brief you on what to expect in parliament. It reduces the load of parliament, that period when they enter parliament and they need to bring, perhaps, improve their capacity to know parliamentary work. It solves the problem for parliament, but it also helps us get our people back on track very quickly, and then they can engage in healthy debate and do their parliamentary work. Otherwise, some think that parliament is just about building classrooms and rubber stamping government's work. No.
I see. Well, hopefully, because debates, something that a lot of people have argued that we're lacking in our parliament. Healthy debates, I should put it that way. But can an NPP, since you mentioned MPs, can an NPP, MP, aspirant, or people from the NPP join this institute? Well,
it's open to all Ghanaians. For some people, they're just seeking knowledge, and indeed, while we are teaching social democracy, we'll be teaching liberal democracy, so you'll be able to understand the difference.
Okay.
And therefore, if there's an NPP person out there who wants to come and study, why not? As long as he's interested in it. But we'll give preference to our people first.
You give preference to your people?
Exactly.
That's very discriminatory, isn't it?
Well, they are competitors, aren't they?
So you treat them as competitors?
Of course they
I'm
are.
Sure that doesn't attract them in the first place.
A political party out of government is a government in waiting.
Right.
And so what you want to do is to prepare and go back and assume the stewardship of the country. So yes, if there's anything decent within the rules of engagement that you can do to oust your political opponent, why not? It's fair game, isn't it?
Do you expect, honestly, really, realistically, that anybody from the other side will join this institute that's seeking to show your people or teach your people how to be better at competing against them?
We're trying to make the institute a place of choice. Before somebody will show up.
I see.
We won't insist on being a member of our party, or we won't turn you down when you're coming from the other side, no. But just know that we need to solve our people's problems
At
first.
this point, you say that it is open to everyone. It is not really a strictly academic program, so it is open to everyone. So the eligibility criteria, I suppose, like we've seen in the WhatsApp messages that are going around, is you should be able to read and write. Yes. Within what timeline are you looking to graduate from a non-academic institute to a strictly academic and research institute?
We as I said, the Academic Affairs subcommittee of the Governing Council would come up with programs and a strategic plan. It would give us an indication of when we can mature enough, and so we'll be working towards that in time. But I can't give that time now until that committee or all the committees submit their report in a month's time. But clearly, we are looking at, and we urge other political parties to think about that, because it's basically, if you're going to become a minister and you've gone through public expenditure management, you've gone through the public policy process in an institution. When you assume office as a minister, you already are equipped with at least understanding the basics of what you're supposed to do.
So you're recommending that these political parties create their own...
they should copy us. We don't have a problem with that.
I see. Okay, how much do people have to pay if they enroll in this institute?
Well, we are not charging fees per se for some categories of participants.
Who are they?
Ordinary people who need to understand. We are doing things like grassroots mobilization, party organization, leadership skills at those levels, indeed across all levels. For some of those people, we'll be seeking sponsorship for them. And for other people, particularly those who are coming from outside, they will have to make a token because we have to pay for some basic things, electricity, we have to get teaching and learning materials and perhaps snacks and all of those things. So that would be a contribution to running the program. But as to the kinds of fees that we've heard about, no, that's not the kind of thing we are looking at.
So let's get it clear, sir. Who is paying and who is not paying? And for those paying, how much are they paying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that it depends on the program. There are some that are a day's program.
Okay.
So we will just charge a token to cover our costs. I can't give any figure.
We've seen some 50 cities going around
well,
as
that's
application
for
registration form.
It will allow us to provide snack. It will allow us to provide some material as well, and cover the transportation cost of some of the people. That's just about it. It's that cheap.
So you're still not sure really who is paying and who is not paying?
For this particular one, it's not a fee.
There's no clear criteria at the moment.
Yeah. If the programs are developed, and the finance committee will be working on that, they will advise on the approach that we need to use in terms of recovering costs. It's an institution, and there will be cost. Even if we bought chairs now, or somebody donated chairs today, in 5 months, in a year, we probably will be looking at replacement. So for those things, yes, we have to. And I don't really like free things, though. I mean, they come cheap and they go cheaply.
They're not. They don't last.
They don't. They're not sustainable.
What then do you say to those who say that the NDC, this is basically a money-making avenue for the NDC?
No. I mean, our prime objective is to build capacity of our members to be more effective and efficient in the discharge of their responsibilities at all levels.
But you're going to make some money.
We will definitely make some money. We should make some money to run the program for other people. They are first-time voters who will come. We need to build their capacity. They love the party, so they come through. We need to build their capacity. We don't expect them to be paying for things like this. So it's cross-subsidization to an extent. If you're running a course for members of parliament who are receiving salary, they can make a contribution. I mean, basically, please, all the parliamentarians listening, don't think that we want to milk you, but at least you can offer something for us to build the capacity of other people for the love of the party as well.
I see. What is the relationship between this institute and the party's reorganization bid? That has been a major theme since we started this year. You as a party, been looking to, mend the cracks, so to speak, within your party. What's the relationship between this institute?
Well, let me say that in investigating the reasons why we had such a bad electoral outcome, one of the things that came up was the fact that the party's ideology is not well understood by a large number of people, and that the recommendation was for us to create opportunities to ensure that progressive intellectuals who are all over the place can be given a role to play in the work of the party. So clearly there's some overlap, but the party school concept had been running for some time. We started work, we actually began some serious work in 2015. We ran a Saturday Institute, which was a one-day thing in April last year. We had to put it on hold because we were going to elections. So yes, there's some overlap, but then the party school itself, of course, we will create opportunities for research, and there are many of our people in the universities, in several places, in industry, who will be part of our process of even interrogating public policies that government are doing. I mean, issues such as what we are experiencing will be thoroughly investigated.
We're experiencing a lot of issues. Which of them?
The banking crisis that we have on our hands for today.
Because Galamsey is also another big issue.
Galamsey is another one. We'll be doing environmental studies as well. So all of those things will come handy when we begin.
If you were to summarize all the other things, because you've hinted, given us bits and pieces of what you're doing based on my question, but if you were to give us a summary of the things that you're going to be teaching, let's say in the next 1 year, what would that be?
We would run, first of all, as I said, the core program will be the philosophy and the ideology of social democracy. You need to understand that. It's an institution of governance and political economy. So you would definitely understand social democracy as a philosophy and as an ideology. You'll be studying the history of the NDC, but you'll also be doing constitutional studies. The party constitution, the national constitution. We're doing citizenship and patriotism. We're also looking at elections and electoral system, political communication, mobilization, grassroots mobilization. We're doing, for the large number of the young that we have in our party, especially those who are without work, we'll be training them in entrepreneurship and innovation, and indeed business management skills. In developing business plans and approaching institutions for support. So apart from training, we're actually transiting them from just holding qualifications and moving into the world of work.
At this point, who is funding?
At this point, we've talked to a number of institutions outside who have indicated that we should submit proposals for funding, and we're going to do that.
Which institutions are we looking at?
I don't want to disclose them. Now it's under wraps. But we've had support from Friedrich Ebert Stiftung, for instance, in doing a number of things. We have a huge diasporan population, our Ghanaian diasporan population, who have committed to supporting the work. It doesn't have to come in the form of money. It can come in the form of books, in the form of teaching and learning materials, or furniture. Or, in fact, we're even at a point auction some facilities. If you did, we'll honor you with that. So we'll use a diversity of approaches to raise resources for that. If you're interested in us immortalizing your name, just bring some money and we'll put a facility.
Well, that's a whole different debate, because then you're going to have, because with this bank issue, a lot of people are raising concerns about how then UT Bank, for instance, and Capital Bank had swept a lot of awards. So if you're looking at awarding people, then you better look much deeper into it.
Ours is a genuine one. Some of it is kind of.
We'll see how it goes. Well, sure. You have Dr. Haji. He says that if you want to be immortalized, just bring money. That's all they need. Bring money, and then you would have it. I'm going to talk about Kenya in a bit. So I want to take your quick view on what's happening in Kenya. There's been an election. The opposition, I'm sure you've followed. The opposition is unhappy. They've called it fraudulent. In fact, today they've issued a directive to their supporters to boycott work in protest of that particular election.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because, you see, all the external observers have declared the elections free and fair, and it's understandable. Losing an election is a very traumatic experience. I mean, I'm speaking because we've just lost an election, and you managing the trauma is quite a big challenge. And then this is a country that's experienced violence after elections. Right. Now, typically what you need to do is to set up post-election quick dispute resolution institutions. Now, it doesn't look like the opposition was prepared to use the proper procedures and the rule of law. I mean, and that's so unfortunate, because what happens is that lives will be lost. They will stay in opposition anyway. These days, nobody encourages violent overthrow, not even social revolutions or people's revolutions or Arab Springs are accepted these days. So we would pray that that somebody would engage the opposition leaders for them to call back their citizenship. That approach is going to be a little more expensive in terms of lives and property than we anticipated.
But having said that, your former flag bearer, or the former president, our former president here, John Mahama, has been there. He's one of the external observers. I mean, he's been there, and the opposition has, bunched them all up together and actually lost faith in them, the external observers, including your own member, John Mahama.
He did well. He did well. Of course, he led.
Well, they believe that there's a certain kind of relationship between himself and the incumbent, Uhuru Kenyatta.
Well, it's an assumed thing, but he went there as an independent observer, not because he had any relationship with. I'm sure in the run-up to the elections, there must have been conversations between the observer team and both parties, or all parties. I want to assume it happens because typically that's what happens. And everybody would then make a pledge that will support the outcome of the elections. But you see, the thing about elections is that when you're going to election, you have to have your concession speech, and then you have to have your
victory
speech, both of them in your pocket. Otherwise, then you see it's difficult convincing your people that you've lost an election.
But they have a case. I mean, it sounds like a legitimate case when they say that there should be, that the external observers, for instance, weren't vetted, that there should be a vetting of people who are coming in to observe, so that we know that there isn't any relationship that could jeopardize the election, or that could, tamper with the election.
Well, who's going to do that? It would be
results.
the government in power. It would be the incumbent government who will vet all these people anyway.
Okay.
But you see, it is just because the nature of the constitutions that we have, where once you win an election, you take everything.
Winner takes all.
Winner takes all, and then the opposition goes home, with nothing. That is the cause of some of the problems that we face in Africa, in many African countries.
You do also know that Macmeno, for instance, was deported, and the belief, was that he was, this morning I heard on BBC, for instance, that they're believed to have been a guest of the opposition party, and that they were going to help with elections there. Well,
I mean, you see, you have to go through protocol. There's an incumbent government. So if you're even going to be a guest of an opposition party, I think that the most appropriate thing you should do is to seek permission from the government. Even though we don't have visa requirements to enter into Kenya, it's a high-profile person. It should be government-to-government arrangement that he's going on behalf of the government.
We're not sure that he was going on behalf of the government.
We don't have enough information on it. That's why I think the MPP has been very silent about it. And I shudder to make any comment on it, because we're all surprised that, I mean, the high-profile person like the chairman or the former chairman of the party, and then the head of the elections committee of a particular party, of an incumbent party, is turned away by Kenya. You see, it has diplomatic implications also. It will cause a freeze in the relationship between this government and that government, and that's not very good for us.
Well, what do you see from where you sit, the thought, the school of thought that he was going to help rig the elections, etc., and that our former president, who is your former flag bearer, is there, and he has linkages with Uhuru Kenyatta? What do you make of all of that?
It's speculative, People are assuming that he was going to work to, again, suspicion that they were going to help to rig the Kenyan elections, but that's speculative, and I wouldn't make any statement to that effect. I was just trying to understand why a government will ask a high-profile person like that to return. I don't know whether the word is deport, to return without touching down on Kenyan soil. There must be a reason behind it, and I'm sure it will unravel in time.
It will unravel in time. A lot more information needed. Doc, thank you so much for coming on the show and for giving us all of that information. Dr. William Ahaji is the rector of the Institute of Democracy, the NDC's Institute of Democracy. Social Democracy, I beg your pardon. Institute of Social Democracy. If you want to be immortalized, he says, bring cash. They need a lot of cash to put this together. He's been chatting with us about what this school entails, what you need to be a part of it, and why you should be a part of it if you believe in the NDC and their fundamental ideals. Doc, thanks once again.
Thank you.